is hosting the next stop on the World Championship Trail. Atlanta International Dragway is just north of the city, and it's jammed to the limit with race fans from throughout the southeastern part of the country. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave McClelland, and welcome to Atlanta International Dragway. There's over $585,000 in cash and awards been posted for the 7th annual running of the Nationwide Auto Parts STP Southern Nationals. It was at this track 1 year ago that Bob Glidden's quest for an unprecedented 7th Winston World title took a dramatic turn. For more on that story, here's Steve Evans.
David, it was 1 year ago here at Atlanta that in different livery, Bob Glidden faced off with Leal in the semifinals of Pro Stock. Glidden won by an eyelash, but a malfunctioning parachute suddenly turned the Ford Thunderbird left, and it smashed head-on into the opposite guardrail. A series of rolls and flips left everyone concerned about Bob's safety. Miraculously, he crawled from the wreckage. A little bumped, a little bruised, but in some ways in better shape than his wife, Etta. Earlier, I talked to both of them about returning to the track that hosted their darkest ever moment.
Well, Steve, you know, you go through the lights, you pull the chute handle, and from there on, what happens, happens. You really have no control over that. Really, I wasn't concerned about making the lap down the track. I was concerned about getting down the track. We have a lot of problems annually at this racetrack, simply being able to get down the track. And our first run out, we went a 7:44, and which was, I think, a track record and the quickest, certainly, we've ever run here. So maybe things are looking up for Atlanta for us.
How long before you can put that incident of a year ago out of your mind completely when you come here?
Oh, I don't know as you ever really do. As a matter of fact, the incident travels with us from racetrack to racetrack. In some ways, it's been really good, though, because we're really a lot more safety conscious. We're more concerned about checking things on the car and in the chassis, and it's done as much good as harm in some ways, because I think it's opened the eyes of a lot of other pro stockers too. You know, things that we used to take for granted, and it was just a careless little mishap, you know, like getting in and perhaps not getting the shoulder harnesses quite as tight as they should be. These kind of things now I think we all look at.
Well, apparently Glidden's Atlanta jinx is over, because he's qualified #1 for this race to come.
It's time now for the Southern Nationals, round number 2 of Pro Stock Eliminator. These amazing cars have quite a following all across the country, particularly in the southeast, and the fans at Atlanta International Dragway have plenty to cheer about. The Pro Stock car of today is a very sophisticated example of the chassis builder's art. Utilizing a portion of the original steel body mated with fiberglass doors, fenders, and hood, the NHRA rules allow for construction of an all-new tubular chassis and suspension. Hailing from the Atlanta suburb of Duluth, Warren Johnson drives the Mr. Goodranch Oldsmobile Forenza. The winningest NHRA driver ever with 52 career victories, Bob Glidden wheels the Motorcraft Quality Parts Ford Thunderbird. The engines in Pro Stock racing are limited to 500 cubic inches and must make their power from racing gasoline. No exotic fuel blends allowed here. To further equalize the racing, the cars can weigh no less than 2,350 pounds, including the driver, with a maximum of 2 4-barrel carburetors. The sport of championship drag racing demands the utmost concentration on the part of the driver to drive for every possible advantage off the starting line. Both drivers staging. Glidden in the far lane, a nearly identical start. Glidden begins to power ahead. And it is a comfortable margin of victory at the finish line. Bob Glidden wins it. His elapsed time, 7.43 seconds. The 1987 Nationwide Auto Parts STP Southern Nationals is being brought to you by Fram Bendix Autolite, which are all quality products of Allied Automotive. And by Goodyear. Goodyear tires and Goodyear service for more good years in your car. And by Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you.
The Pro Stock Thunderbird of 7-time NHRA champion Bob Glidden uses just one make of tire, the Goodyear Racing Eagle. And every Thunderbird Turbo Coupe leaves Ford with just one make of tire, the Goodyear Eagle VR Gatorback Street Radial. And not by coincidence, because Goodyear makes better high-performance tires for the track and for the street. Goodyear Eagles. They'll take you home the quick way or to the winner's circle.
Goodyear, take me home.
Back at the NHRA Nationwide Auto Parts STP Southern Nationals, a record-breaking crowd jammed into Atlanta International Dragway has just watched Bob Glidden move into the semifinals.
Well, it took a year, but Bob Glidden has finally run the final that would have happened 1 year ago had he not crashed his car, and it looks like the Atlanta jinx is a thing of the past, a 743.
Well, I'll tell you, Steve, this is just another round. Every round in this Pro Stock's like a national event final. We ran Don Kuntz first round, Warren this round, and chances are we could have Bruce Allen next round. Every round's like a final.
On the starting line, the burnout procedure underway for our next two competitors in the second round of Pro Stock Eliminator. Gary Brown drives the Oldsmobile Forenza he is racing against, the Pontiac Trans Am, wheeled by Tony Christian. Out of Sarasota, Florida, Tony Christian moved into Pro Stock just over a year ago. Now driving the Volante and Earl Pontiac, he beat Jerry Ekman in the first round. His competition, racing for Oldsmobile out of Buford, Georgia, is Gary Brown. He defeated Houston's Pete Smith in round number 1. The burnout procedure completed. The tires as hot as they can be. Both drivers concentrating on that Christmas tree, trying to get that advantage off the starting line. Brown tried just a bit too hard. He left the starting line too early, left the red light on the Christmas tree, giving the win to Tony Christian, wasting a great 7:53 elapsed time. Christian having a bit of a handling problem there as the car slows from that 184-mile-an-hour winning effort. Back on the starting line, a pair of Chevrolets, two very diverse cars. Here's the brand new Chevrolet Beretta of Joe Lapone. Originally a front-wheel drive car, converted now to Pro Stock racing. That 500 cubic inch engine sitting up under the silver and red hood scoop in the front of the Beretta. This is the first competitive appearance for the Republic Tobacco Joe Papers Special of Joe Lapone. He is racing against one of the toughest Camaros in competition, that of Bruce Allen, the car campaigned by Rare and Morrison from Arlington, Texas. In round number 1, Bruce Allen, driving the Levi Garrett car, beat Mark Powick, while Joe Lapone defeated Reed Wisnett. Earlier, Steve had a chance to look at Joe's new car.
This is one of the most eagerly awaited and controversial Pro Stock automobiles in a long time. It's Joe Lapone's 1987 Chevrolet Beretta, the new generation of small cars from Chevrolet. The advantages to a Beretta, well, the rules allow you to make it a rear-wheel drive as a Pro Stock, and it's got a much smaller frontal area. That's got to be better aerodynamics. Also, the wheelbase a couple of inches longer, Joe feels will add to stability of the automobile. Now, NHRA rules require that the body not be changed in any way, shape, or form. Not the windows, not the fenders, anything, as far as their dimensions are concerned. Well, chassis builder Don Ness found that he had to move the rear axle 2 inches forward so that these huge rear slicks would clear this rear window without modifying the outside of the body. Joe showed up at the Gator Nationals, and NHRA Tech people said, Joe, you can't do that. He said, well, there's no other way to build a Beretta. The car was not allowed to run there. Later on at Dallas at the Winston All-Stars, again, not allowed to run. But now everyone's gotten together, realized the problem. If we're going to see these cars, they've got to allow it. The rule has been changed, and Joe is in competition here with that rear axle moved just slightly forward. The car closer to stock configuration than almost any other.
And in his first competitive appearance, Lapone has been consistent in the 750 range. Will it be enough to meet Bruce Allen? A brilliant hole shot for Joe Lapone. Allen and Lapone side by side, and Bruce Allen pulls it out in the last few feet. The Rare and Morrison Camaro wins the race with a 7:48 elapsed time. Lapone still at a 7:55. He used a hole shot off the starting line. In other words, he left the line before Bruce Allen. That could have paid off big, but Allen found the horsepower in the Camaro to drive past Joe Lapone in the last few feet of the racetrack, and just by a matter of inches, Bruce Allen pulls by Joe Lapone to win and move into the semifinals of the Southern Nationals.
Well, it took that rare and Morrison horsepower to get around that new Chevy Beretta of Joe Lapone's, a 745, did it?
It's a good thing we got a fast car. Got a lousy driver. I'm telling you, I'm struggling a little bit, but we're going to do our best to get out there and get Bob.
But lately, Joe Lapone has been beating up on everybody on the starting line. He's not just picking on you.
No, Joe's a good driver, and he does a real good job. He gets up there. He just knows what he's going to do. He just goes up there and does it. It's a little hard to go up there with the confidence when you've been struggling a little bit like I've been, but we'll go out there and give it our best. Buddy and Dave come through again.
Indeed they did. That big Chevrolet made the difference.
Steve, a big win for Bruce Allen, but a great debut in competition for the new Chevy Beretta of Joe Lapone. It's now a pair of Pontiacs on the starting line. Heating up the tires in the burnout, the winner of the Gator Nationals. This is Butch Leal. His opponent is Lee Dean. Now, these are two basically identical type cars. They are Pontiac Trans Am Firebirds, 1987, the vintage. The big difference is how they're set up and how they're driven. Lee Dean, driving for the Sterling Brothers Racing Team, defeated Larry Morgan in round number 1, while Butch Leal at the wheel of the Nationwide Auto Bars Pontiac defeated Nick Nicholas. The point to look for here, and certainly on the mind of Lee Dean, is Butch Leal's legendary reaction times. He has probably won more races by being able to leave the starting line first, having those quick reaction times, than any other racer in drag racing. And he does it again. A great hole shot for Butch Leal. But Leal's Pontiac got some muscle, too. He not only outdrives, he outruns Lee Dean. A 7.53 second elapsed time. Great speed, over 185 miles an hour. That brings about our semifinal bearings. Butch Leal will race against Tony Christian. Leal earned lane choice with a quicker elapsed time. The classic Ford versus Chevrolet battle. Bob Glidden against Bruce Allen. Glidden having lane choice. But on the starting line, it is time for the semifinals of Pro Stock Eliminator. Tony Christian at the wheel of the Volante and Earl Pontiac, pulling on the line lock. You can see him holding down the button on the top of the shifter. That locks up those brakes so that car cannot roll unless he wants it to. Butch Leal and Tony Christian side by side off the starting line. And it is Leal first to the finish line. A great race for Butch Leal, moving him into the final round with a 7.51 second elapsed time, a speed of over 185 miles an hour out of that Pontiac. Back at the starting line, we're looking inside the Chevrolet Camaro of Bruce Allen. He pulls the levers on the transmission, shifting the gears. As he does his burnout to heat up the tires. Let's go to Steve with Butch Leal.
Well, Dave, interestingly enough, Butch Leal may be going to the final round, but he's trapped in the car at the moment as he cannot get the window net off. So I think I'll just talk to him through the net. You won it with a 751.
Well, it's a little better run than I run before, Steve. It's hotter now and everything, and we kind of hopped it up a little. But I'm sure Glidden's going to run about a 45, so we're going to have to start in line again. Here we go. We're back to the starting line to try to do a good job and see if we can outrun him. Bruce may beat him. Bruce is running real good, and I'd like to see an upset here, maybe.
Well, first of all, you better get some scissors and cut your way out of the car. Let's go back to the starting line.
Steve, on the starting line, the Ford of Glidden is in the far lane. The Chevrolet of Bruce Allen in the near lane. And Allen has a very slight advantage. As they pass our camera position, it's almost an even race. But Glidden pulls ahead at the finish line to win it by a tenth of a second. He ran 7.43 seconds, actually quicker than Butch Leal's prediction, at a speed of 187 miles an hour. And there's your final. The Pontiac of Butch Leal against the Ford of Bob Glidden, with Glidden having lane choice.
The Pro Stock Thunderbird of 7-time NHRA champion Bob Glidden uses just one make of tire, the Goodyear Racing Eagle. And every Thunderbird Turbo Coupe leaves Ford with just one make of tire, the Goodyear Eagle VR Gatorback Street Radial. And not by coincidence, because Goodyear makes better high-performance tires for the track and for the street. Goodyear Eagles. They'll take you home the quick way or to the winner's circle.
Goodyear, take me home.
When Warren Johnson is tearing down the track, he's under a lot of pressure. And so is Kurt, his son and chief mechanic. That's why he chooses a spark plug he can count on, Autolite. You see, the pressure in a high-powered engine like this is enough to melt down the tips of ordinary plugs, but Autolites are tough enough to take the heat of Warren's engine. Are they special racing plugs? No, they're the same kind you use in your car. But don't take it from Warren Johnson. Take it from Kurt, his mechanic, Autolite.
Auto Parts STP Southern Nationals were getting set for the final round of Pro Stock Eliminator. Once again, Ford and General Motors tangle the Pontiac of Butch Leal in the near lane against the flying Ford Thunderbird of Bob Glidden. A rematch of the Gator Nationals where Bob Glidden red-lighted away his chance for the win. Let's join Steve with John Force.
Well, if you're a regular viewer of our NHRA drag racing coverage, you know the story on John Force. John, this will be, what, your 9th or 10th final round appearance?
This is our 10th final round and my 4th one with Kenny Bernstein.
And yet to win one. That might change today.
Never to win, Steve. There's a lot of people that love this whole race car and a lot of sponsors that have backed me for years, 10 years. Mom and Dad's almost embarrassed. And it's time we step up here and ain't making no promises this time. I'm just simply saying that this old group's come here to get rid of that bridesmaid deal. We're fighting back here. You saw the tire smoke. I never backpedaled a car so many times in my life. Luck's holding here this weekend, and we ain't going out without a slug out. I mean that.
I can't add a word to that. John Force goes into the final.
Steve, absolutely the best interview in drag racing. Here on the starting line, it is Butch Leal in the near lane, Bob Glidden in the far lane, for all the marbles in Pro Stock Eliminator. Leal's reaction time pays off. He's got the advantage off the starting line, the whole shot. But once again, Glidden drives by and wins the Southern Nationals. His elapsed time, 7.42 seconds. We'll be coming right back to the nationwide STP Southern Nationals. Remain at the Southern Nationals, but before we get to that, let's join Steve with Bob Glidden.
Well, I'm standing next to one proud bird and one very proud Hoosier. You finally conquered Atlanta, Bob Glidden.
I'll tell you what, I not only conquered Atlanta after the episode that went on here last year, but I finally beat Leal in a final. This is the first race we've won all year. You know, I know the people at Ford and people at Motorcraft are going to be glad to see the Thunderbird come through finally.